first we want to please the Lord.
Figure out what your standards are, and what you're willing to do and what you're willing not to do, and know that before you approach projects. You don't have to do anything that you didn't sign up for, you know? So be careful what you sign up for.
Jostiflix started right after I did our first film, Little Jake and Harry.
Films aren't a harvester, they're a seed planter.
We had taken up the challenge that we were going to be making Christian films to become part of a independent Christian film ministry to rival Hollywood.
And you want to be able to have strong characters that are driving your plot forward.
I got interested in films when I was like 16 years old. My brother and I, we wrote a script, and that was our first introduction in doing films.
I started as an animator, and to animate a good performance you have to study acting, and so I studied theater in Vancouver. I did that for about 10 years, and then started getting into acting more after that. I pursued an agent in Calgary, and that's turned into a couple of agents since, and the one I'm with now. And you know, I always kind of did it as a kid. Made movies on my dad's Beta camera, and it was fun, and just kind of got after it, and I've been fortunate to get a couple of opportunities to try it out. So that's me for the last few years of acting.
I was praying for direction on what to do next, and I wanted to practice and hone my skills before I moved on to my next film. And so my mom had the idea of starting Jostiflix and doing a YouTube video a week.
So I saw my dad editing a video for a mission in Jamaica that he was the forwarding agent for. And I found that really interesting, and then we went around the country showing that video, and I used our family's video camera on that trip, and that was what got me interested in film.
Well, Dallas was in high school when he really started to take up the idea of becoming a filmmaker. And that really began in 2005 when we were on a trip to California, and we had bought him for his birthday a set of CDs from some people I'd never heard of before in San Antonio, Texas, who had a San Antonio Independent Christian Film Festival and Academy, and it was the recordings of that Academy. And we listened every day as we were driving. We put that CD in and we listened to an hour. And by the time we were finished that trip, we had taken up the challenge that we were going to be making Christian films to become part of a independent Christian film ministry to rival Hollywood. And we knew nothing about really filmmaking at that time, but we decided that we were going to take up that challenge and learn.
Well, in 1980, I became a born-again Christian, and that changed my whole outlook on why I wanted to do films, and so my brother did too. So we have a threefold purpose in doing the films that we produce. First, we want to please the Lord. John 15:5 is our filmmaking verse. Jesus said, "Abide in me, and you'll bear much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing." So with the movies we produce, because we want to try to impact people with the truth and for Christ, we want to please them. Second, we want to put content in there to motivate the Christian, to inspire the Christian, to challenge the Christian viewer. Third, in our movies, we want to share the gospel so a non-believer will consider Christ. Hopefully we provoke their thinking, and they'll make a decision to want to receive the Lord.
One of the sole purposes of starting Jostiflix was to have incentive to practice our craft of filmmaking and to make short films, which I think is a very valuable tool in getting better at filmmaking. And so that was one of the reasons. One of the second reasons was to build an audience for when we do make a feature film.
We wanted to use films to fulfill the Great Commission. Jesus told us to go into the world and make disciples and baptize them and to teach them to obey everything He commanded. And so we need to teach the people in our churches and in our culture how to do that, how to be disciples, how to obey everything He's commanded. And we really feel that the church is a mission field, that there are many people in the church that really do not personally know Jesus, and also many people who have accepted Him or really are not following Him and really being disciples. And we really wanted to we know this tool is powerful, the most powerful tool in our society. And that's what called us to it, and that's our goal.
Well, Well, production's hard, and I've never really enjoyed production. I used to say editing, because when you're in editing, you can save the film, but I've changed my answer. My favorite part of the film process is showing the movie, because that means it's done. But I like working on the script and trying to come up with ideas and to make it better. And then after shooting the film, I would say editing, because you can save the film, you can fix things. Normally when you shoot a movie, you're going to have a handful of scenes that you could call problem scenes, and you got to work a little harder to edit those and make those work. I like adding the music, I like adding the sound design. This is when your movie comes to life. So I would say in the production process, I enjoy the post-production the most.
Well, I have to say I'm not much with the camera. Dallas has got the artistic eye. He's the one behind the camera and does the artistic work. I really love script writing, and I'm good at production. I don't love it as much. There's a lot of logistic work to get a production together, and I don't mind making all the charts and finding locations and contacting actors. It can get a little bit stressful. It's such a huge project to put together a feature-length film. And I do that. I also quite enjoy on the set. I get the honor of being the assistant director, and that means I kind of get to be in charge. Although Dallas is the one in charge as the director of all the creative work, and I really trust him and let him take the lead in anything creative.
I like filmmaking because I like all of it. When I was in high school, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to be a painter, and I wanted to do everything. And filmmaking puts that all into one nice little package. And when I'm making a film, usually about the time that I'm bored of the thing I'm doing, it's about time to move on to the next stage.
Well, my daughters and some of our family have been following independent Christian film for quite some time, and so they've been very interested in being able to network with other filmmakers and get involved in different projects. We went down to the San Antonio Christian Film Festival, and they decided we need something similar here in Alberta so that they could find people in our area to network with and to be able to encourage other young filmmakers.
Well, I was mentioning before about those people in San Antonio that set out that challenge, and one of their goal was to create an independent Christian film industry that would rival Hollywood. And we were really in the very beginning of that, and it's still small, but we're starting to see it grow. But the other part of aspect of that goal was they wanted to inspire that there would be at least 100 different centers in North America with of filmmakers, of Christian filmmakers. And we knew that that meant us in Alberta, because as far as we know, as far as Christian filmmakers in Alberta, there's ourselves, and we met up with the Wiens who have partnered with us, and the Josts. Now, there may be others that we're not aware of, but as far as we know, we are the ones that are starting that in this area. We have used young people who are learning as crew on our sets to, it helps us, but it really helps spread the movement amongst other people there. And that's the reason we started this ACCFM intensive weekends as a training ground to network and inspire not just young people, but people who are mature and in the industry to use their craft for the glory of God.
I've always wanted to encourage filmmakers in Alberta, especially Christian filmmakers. There's some fantastic festivals and training opportunities in the States, but most of them are many days of travel away, driving, and quite costly to get there, much less just pay for a ticket to attend. And what happens at these is oftentimes you get people from all over the country, and they're wonderful times, but then everybody goes home and they're all separated and far away from each other, and nobody can collaborate. And I would love to work with more people in Alberta and see people closer so that they can actually come and work on our films. We can actually go and work on their films without having to pay exorbitant costs just to get people here or get myself there.
A good cheap Canon DSLR is what I film most Jost flicks on, and you can get that camera for around $200 or $300 now. So I used a Canon T2i and just get a good set of lenses like 22 millimeter and a 35 millimeter and a 50 millimeter, or a zoom lens with all those focal lengths on it to a short film. You want to usually skip the intro because usually that adds too much time. I usually try to cut to the chase and get right into the moment, and try to make them complete in some way by using a reveal or some kind of surprise at the end that kind of puts everything together that you just watched.
My favorite scene in Polycarp, that's an easy answer, is where I'm sitting with Anna. Those gods have eyes, ears, a mouth, but they can't see, hear, or speak. Our God, yeah. I loved that scene. I looked forward to that scene for months before I ever showed up and filmed it.
You want to be able to have strong characters that are driving your plot forward and that are able to present a realistic story so that people will be able to identify with them and buy into the message that you're presenting. As well, you need to be able to develop the plot structure so that you are able to give the arcs in the character's life and present a strong message and be able to pick out all of those key events that are going to help the audience focus in on what message you're trying to present as well. Sometimes you're missing something and somebody else might be able to read it and say, this doesn't make sense to me, or this area is weak, and so getting that feedback from others is really helpful.
If you can get a small part on a film, jump in and buy in 100%. And whatever you do, even if it's an audition, where you just have a minute in front of people to perform in a room that they've paid the rent for, or if it's a background part, just commit to it 100%. Ask yourself what serves the project you're a part of the best, and then just buy into it, you know. Act it fully.
As a Christian filmmaker, I want to be shaping people's thought processes. So many people's thought processes have been shaped towards what's not true. And I want them to be thinking correctly so that when they do hear truth, they recognize it.
I think get out there and gain experience. Come up with a lot of even short projects that you can work on so that you're developing your skills. You're working on all the different elements of story and film and being able to just get the practice. Try working with different lighting dynamics and developing short plot lines and just camera angles and being able to just experiment.
You know, I'm not one of those guys. There's a lot of people think, you know, we're going to change Hollywood and all that stuff. I'm not in that camp. You're never going to change Hollywood. I think that what Christians' films are, they're a tool that the Lord can use to achieve His purposes. The true Christian films are never going to be real popular. They're just not. I mean, Jesus was never popular, and I think if something has a real solid message in the Lord, it's only going to be so popular, because part of that message is bad news saying you're a sinner, you need a Savior. So I think the genre of Christian films will continue to exist, and definitely, though, the Lord has used films to change lives, to encourage Christians, to challenge non-believers in a mighty way. And I think many people have come to know Christ as a result of watching a Christian film. And guys making secular films, they can't say that. You know, I mean, they're going for Oscars, we're going for souls.